Georgia, grand season preview. Just when you thought it was safe to assume about Georgia, just when you thought you knew maybe, just maybe what they would be offensively this year, Jamie Newman says, bye. And then you start hearing the name DeJuan Mathis, and Georgia fans know who he is. Most people outside of Athens say, who? And then, what? Wait, he's going to start? And that hasn't been made official, but we firmly believe that will be the case for the opener against Arkansas. And so now everything's thrown back into an expectation tailspin, if you will. I'm not saying it's dramatic and they're going 6-4 or anything like that. We'll get to record scenarios in just a second. But there are no excuses here regardless. No one wants to hear excuses in the middle of the season. You definitely don't want to hear them in the preseason. The mood tracker, as we get started here on the grand season preview for Georgia, is kind of, if you're a Georgia fan, you're already bought in. At this point, there's no turning back. And so you're just kind of ready, come what may. You're ready to get hurt again. You think you have national championship potential. That hasn't panned out in the last 3+ decades for one reason or the other. If it happens again this year, it happens, but there's no reason not to be fully bought in here. Areas of focus for this 2020 version of Georgia football. By 10 miles, it's got to be quarterback. DeJuan Mathis, this whole surge in the whispers and intel and rumors, and we've heard the same thing as you have over the past couple of weeks. What is it? Is it congruent to Jamie Newman leaving? Is it congruent to JT Daniels not being medically cleared yet? Or is DeJuan Mathis just an absolute stud, freak athlete that has taken the job regardless of who's there? That's something that we can talk about in just a second. Also, kind of tied into the quarterback situation and offense in general, this whole new offensive shift. We came out of the bowl game and getting beat like a drum by LSU in the SEC title game, and it became obvious to everyone, got to make an offensive change here. And Kirby Smart agreed with you. And so he made a change. And in came Todd Monken, and with that, rumors of everything from, well, we're going to spread it out a little bit more, to we're going full on air raid, which was never going to happen and certainly isn't right now. However, how big of an adjustment will we see? When you turn on the Arkansas game in week 1, in other words, if you were to have frozen yourself after the end of last year and just opened the capsule for week 1, how different, you don't even know about the changes, how different would this offense look? My expectation is it's probably going to look a lot more similar than you expected to, only because even if they did intend on radically overhauling this, a lot of that's probably been thrown out the window with having to play a quarterback that they probably weren't planning on playing a month ago, or if we're to believe the rumors out of Athens even a couple of weeks ago. Consider the personnel. Number one, consider the entire backdrop being one of the best defenses in the country that you get to play with, so you don't have to score 40 a game. And then number two, just consider, what are we playing with here? We got an offensive line where run blocking is well ahead of pass pro. We got one surefire stud receiver and some other ones we think will be good this year. We got some studs at running back. And we got a guy who is questionable in terms of decision making because we hadn't put him on the field to throw the ball against real competition, but we do know he can run, and we do know he's an athlete. What kind of offense would you run? Rhetorical. I'll leave that there. And number three, the disruption factor here. Havoc rate is so overused around Georgia at this point that I'm just looking for new ways to explain what they're looking for, but it's really that. How much can we and how consistently can we harass the quarterback? They've got to affect the passer. Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter versus Arkansas. To be brutally honest with you, it's not going to matter against Vanderbilt whether they can get after the quarterback. Their roster is good enough in most years of a 10-game season to go 8-2. I mean, their G helmet sticker can get thrown out on the field, and that's good enough to go 7-3, 8-2 with nothing added in. But in order to go 9-1 or 10-0, it's going to matter against the likes of Alabama or the likes of, in a college football playoff situation, if you get that far, the likes of a Clemson or Ohio State, Florida in the regular season. You're going to have to get after the quarterback. I don't care how good your defense is. This sport has shown us over the last few years, quarterback play at the college level has elevated to where if you are in the elite tier offensively, there is no defense known to man in this sport that is shutting you down. Now, they may not give up 50, but if you face the elite of the elite in this sport, they're scoring 24 plus on you. Now, if it's 34 or 44, that's a problem. But the point is, you've got to be able to match it. And so you're going to have to be able to do something in terms of disrupting, because the difference between holding them to 23 or 24 versus them tacking on another touchdown field goal, and that being the difference in the game, is how consistently can you affect the quarterback? Doesn't have to be a sack all the time, but there have been times, most recently that LSU game, watching Joe Burrow have the amount of time it takes us to do an entire show to stand in the pocket and just kind of watch things unfold. I think at one time he yawned in the SEC championship game and then kept right on going with the same play that was happening before he yawned. They got to get after the quarterback better. And so there are guys now. You normally start at edge rusher. Hey, I think guys like Nakobe Dean, who's an inside backer for them, but not in the classical sense of 6'3", 255 pounds, that's the kind of athlete that can disrupt things. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, these are the kind of guys who can disrupt. I don't care where it comes from, but they need it. And they need it in waves, not just one guy that you can game plan around if you're really good offensively. All right, let's talk about biggest questions for Georgia here. Defensively, everybody expects them to be good. One of, if not the very best units in the sport this year. But notice what I said. One of, if not the best in the sport this year. Are they going to be historically great? Is this going to be a unit that we compare against the best of all time? Or is it going to be one of 2 or 3 of the best units this year? Because there is a difference there in the way that you can expect in a game and the way that you can game plan offensively in a game. If you got a historically great defense, that changes things a little bit. And it also probably changes the way you go about things offensively a little bit. Number 2, what will that offense be asked to do that falls right in line with question number 1 there? Again, Georgia's roster, I firmly believe, can go 8-2. That's how good they are. They probably have, you can make an argument they have the most talented preseason roster in America at this point. That's how good they've recruited. They can go 8-2 with that roster. But what is the offense asked to do? Falls right in line with what the defense is or isn't allowing week to week. But you can only protect that offense for so long. And I keep going back to this. That defense can give you a false sense of security. If it's not historically great, if it's not one of the best of all time, the fact of the matter is going to remain, as I just said, elite college offenses are going to score on you. And if you have sheltered that offense and you have taken the air out of the ball against inferior opposition just because, hey, there's only one way we lose this game, and that's turnovers. If you play that risk-averse style, that's fine to get you 8-2. But if you're looking to go further than that, eventually your quarterbacks are going to have to win you a game or two. Is the Georgia quarterback situation, is that offense going to be at a point anytime this year where you can count on them? When you need a drive or two, third quarter, maybe it's 17-17 against Florida, and you need a drive. Maybe you're trailing 20-17 against Alabama. You need a drive. At any point this year, are they going to be in a position to do that? And since we were just showing you pictures of JT Daniels there, what happens if he's cleared or when he's cleared? We expect it to happen eventually. Right now, they couldn't start him if they wanted to. But what happens when he's cleared? Because you've heard a lot of rumor and whatnot out of Georgia about the reason why Jamie Newman left and the reason why DeJuan Mathis may very well be your starter for the first week or first several weeks. A lot of that stuff may be true. There may be shades of gray or degrees of truth to it. What happens when he's cleared? How big a quarterback competition do you have up there then? Is it DeJuan Mathis's job? Or is this a case where it's his job right now because you can't really get Daniels fair looks in practice, but once he's cleared, then we kind of hit the reset button. And once we see that we got to be able to stretch the field better than we can with Mathis, how much does that reset that quarterback situation? You can only know that once he gets clear because they cannot dedicate practice reps to a guy right now that they know 100% cannot play on Saturday. This is not 5 weeks to go until the season starting. We're here. So you don't waste practice reps right now. And number 4, Matt Luke is the new offensive line coach here. Will he produce a great offensive line? Because they've been pretty good there for the last few years. Right now they probably have as many question marks as they have in quite a while in that offensive line. Now, they are not without personnel by any stretch of the imagination. Question mark doesn't equal weakness. Question mark equals question mark. Matt Luke is very highly regarded. He started with a bang there. He's made some waves on the recruiting trail. So now what kind of product does he put on the field? Maybe he was great, and Matt Luke is also that great. So that's the reason it's a question to me right now. How about the schedule analysis for Georgia? They have a bye before Florida, as they always do, but this schedule is pretty front-loaded. They have 5, to me, of their toughest games. In fact, their 5 toughest games are all in a row, if you look at that. And it starts in week 2. They got Auburn, they got Tennessee, they got Bama, they got Kentucky, a bye week, and then Florida. We have 2 of their games rated 10, and that's the game at Bama, and that's the game against Florida, neutral site there. We got 3 of them rated 8 or 9. We got 3 of them rated 6 or 7, and we got 2 of them rated 5 or less. Take a good look at that and then think along with me. Best, worst, and most likely record scenarios. Georgia's just like Alabama at this point. The talent alone makes their ceiling 10-0 every year when you're talking best case scenario. So that's where Georgia starts. 10-0 is best case. The worst case to me is 6-4. When you're talking about 2 games rated 10 or higher, and you're talking about half of your schedule being rated 8 or higher, yeah, if you don't get quarterback figured out, you absolutely right. 6-4 is the worst case there. The most likely for Georgia, our model per 100 season simulations spat out 8.5 and 1.5. So it was dead on an even number there. We had to round up or round down, and I rounded down. The reason I rounded down is because I can listen to people tell me that the ceiling, even with Dwan Mathis in this offense, it's sky high, and it very well may be. I mean, there certainly is a pop potential with this team this year because there is so much unknown entering the year that if all the unknown exceeds what normal expectation would be, that's why 10-0 is there for best case. So right now, we're going to go with 8-2. That's going to be the official projection here. Georgia 8-2 for the 2020 college football season.